primarily around metrics. So you're trying to understand how, this is another phrase I'm borrowing for someone else, but how do you keep score and how do you win games? So if you don't keep score around your product, it's hard to win games. And you basically just want to know which metric that's really important and then track the metric really carefully. You can do that either with third-party tools or internally. I think if you're a small company, you want to start something third-party. If it's, so you have a mobile application, you want to maybe start using Mixpanel to do some basic event tracking externally. At some point, which can be a very, very late stage, you need to do more analysis in-house, and it's important for you to keep all the metrics in-house. And then you probably have some data team, data science people that can help you with those things. If you're really small, if you're a new startup, I would probably make sure I know SQL and can run my queries against my own database. But I also rely on a lot of external software. I think a lot external client and metrics solutions. So Mixpanel is great for just client event tracking. Optimizely is great for A/B testing. I think Google Analytics is probably basic. You need that for if you're running something on web. I think there are a lot of highly kind of vertical, specialized tools as well. Everything else beyond that is probably very specialized in some way. I think the way, if you kind of ask the questions why am I using this tool, you want to build funnels. You want to understand how does my user flow through the product that I built, and you want to know why things are happening. So just tracking the number of downloads you're getting every day is not that interesting. It's more interesting, okay, why do I have more downloads today than yesterday? So you want to focus on metrics that helps you understand the picture versus metrics that just gives you kind of a vanity number. So growth rate is more important than the actual growth. For someone who works in growth, there are many, many benefits of working in an app ecosystem. Like there are APIs that open up channels. There are APIs that kind of increase relevance. There are APIs that does great things for you if you're an app developer. I think mobile web is somewhat limited in many of these channels, so I probably would spend my time thinking about how to build an app. I would say Android is kind of the most interesting area right now because there are so many APIs that either people don't know about or they're still exciting to take advantage of them and build just really, really great experiences, which I think iOS doesn't have the same kind of level of deepness in the API right now. So for A/B testing, it's probably true that you want to do some kind of web view or mobile web. Or you do it on the web and then take your hypothesis to mobile. If you want to think about channels, you want to think about platform, and you would generally want to think about repeat usage and engagement and all those things. I think you definitely have to be on an app. But if you just think about purely about A/B testing, there's no one standard or one way of doing A/B testing on mobile. There's many different people right now trying to do it, but it's very fragmented, I would say. So when I graduated, I didn't even know I was going to work on products. It took me a couple of years, so trying to figure out that I want to work on product, build consumer products. I think people that are highly analytical, they will not settle for, I built this thing, we put this live, now just build the next thing. You have to actually see, okay, what happened with this thing? What are the optimization improvements? I think, I'm not an engineer, but this is generally how an engineering mindset is okay, let's optimize things to make everything that we can find a little bit better. And growth is very similar. If you know why things are happening, you know the cost and effect of different things, you can make them better. You know why people are signing up to become hosts, or then maybe you can make some of those steps better. And I think that's just being highly analytical, curious about why things are happening, curious about data. I think that makes a good foundation for someone who wants to work in growth. I think someone who's pretty pragmatic around, let's say, design, or someone who doesn't feel a strong ownership over a certain type of creative work is pretty, where you're basically, the tools you're using is to accomplish this goal. It does not mean the most perfect code or the most perfect design. It's to accomplish something else. And so those are good things. In terms of who I would look for, I look for people that I think a good sign is people are highly analytical. People have been in situations where they had to spend time thinking about growth. So if you ever start from zero on anything, unless you were really well funded and things went well anyway, you probably had to think about how do I grow from here? And if you ever put yourself in that situation, starting something from zero, I think that's also a good sign. If you made it, like you actually did succeed, and that was through a number of iterations, that's a really good sign. And you both the analytical side, and you've actually shown that you can execute based on a hypothesis. You can find analytical people everywhere. Like I think when I look at people that are applying for growth jobs, they have all kinds of backgrounds: engineering, finance backgrounds. Like you'd be surprised on how many different fields people can come from. Again, going back to the App Store being featured example, like it's really exciting to be featured. It's really exciting to see that growth for that time, but it doesn't really matter long term. Like what matters is to understand what are the things that I'm building that actually compounds over a long time. And that's in some ways it's true for platforms as well. So some platforms have peaks and they go down, and the Facebook platform had a couple of really good years a few years ago, but it's not something that people really spend too much time optimized for anymore in terms of just getting new growth. Even when you do that compounding kind of growth thinking, you take risks on platforms. So right now it might be Twitter or Pinterest or whatever. It could be all kinds of platforms. But it's important that you think in terms of compounding growth. Aside from that, I really like that there is a community around growth right now. So people do get, people that are fresh out of school get interested in growth right away. And that probably wasn't the case 5-10 years ago, because there weren't almost anybody that were working on that, or there was a name for it. So I think the people that are learning growth right now are probably going to be way, way better than we are in, say, 5 years from now. And I think it'll become just really, really important. I think the best people on growth are people that are very flexible and not tied to a single platform or a single channel, because channels and platform changes over time. I think you want to be really pragmatic and flexible on a platform. So once you've been successful at one place, you want to be able to adapt that thinking to something new, because the rules are different on each platform, paid or unpaid or organic, what it might be. Let's say right now people are trying to learn mobile growth. That's a completely different set of rules than on the Facebook platform. So you have to adapt to them and adapt your thinking. So I think that the question around how and when you structure a growth team depends on the stage of the product. If you are still in your customer development phase, in your early phases, trying to figure out if what I built is something that people want, it's probably too early, and it can be very confusing to start working on growth things, because you might it might not be a representative user base of the things you're trying to prove. Once you have something that you know people want, you have some metrics, you have some other ways of figuring out that this is what people want. And this is the case with Voxer, where in the early days of Voxer, we had a few thousand users. We had no idea really how we found them, but we had them, and they were very, very active on Voxer. They were sending dozens of messages every day to each other. Now they found their friends we didn't know either. But at the time, we knew that, okay, if people just had friends, we figured out that the main correlation between activity for those users was there was friends that people to send messages to. So we figured out that the two things we should be doing now is getting more users on the platform, getting them more friends. And those are both kind of clear growth goals. We had to build an effort around that. And then we spent, I would say, the next year basically only trying to optimize those two things. More users, getting them more friends. In the beginning, I would say it starts with really understanding which numbers that drive, or what is the metric that you're trying to drive? What's the goal? There's some metrics that are trying to drive that goal. Then you want to understand how can I impact that metric? And when you know that, you probably want to start having a hypothesis and proving some things. So in the very early days, I would say someone of any kind in the team that just is passionate about growth, someone who cares about numbers, someone who look at something and say, I can move this number, or I can actually build something that let us get more users. And if they do that and you get more users, there's a great feedback loop. So in the early days, I would say it doesn't really matter who this person is. It could be product, could be engineer, someone else. That person kicks off the effort. After After that, you probably need a team. You definitely need someone to run the numbers on the data side. You need an engineer to build the things, and often you need a designer to help design kind of the user flows you're going through. But it can be almost as small as that, and some companies now, like Facebook, have hundreds of people working on growth. For hiring for a growth team, I think my experience is it's fairly like ad hoc and random. Like, it's not like there's a perfect, like, oh, if I know all these things, I just get hired to a growth team. I think you have to just do some unnatural thing and try to get in touch with people that just like write some answers on Quora and just do something to try beyond just the things that you know. But in terms of the skill set, I think you want to be analytical. You want to show that you're analytical by being able to mine your own data, like be able to do some analysis yourself. You want to be just curious about the questions around why things are growing and be really kind of open-minded about that. So if I ask the question like, why is Twitter, how did that Twitter go to become what it is today? You want to be able to just not just say, oh, it's because of this and this. You want to break it down pretty accurately, like this happened, this happened, this happened. And you can either read yourself to that. If you sign up to Twitter, I might ask you to go through the Twitter sign-up flow today, or the Airbnb or the Voxer one. And you probably want to have a good answer to why all these things exist in that sign-up flow. Because usually if you're someone doing Facebook, you spend years in optimizing those flow and you know exactly why things are there. So if you're not interested in why things are there, if you're not curious about understanding why things are happening, you're probably not the right person for someone to work in growth. I think you want to show some passion around product. You want to show that you really care about building things for others. And you want to show some ability to prioritize. And you want to, in growth, you want to prioritize based on like what's going to grow. What's the biggest opportunity to build compounding growth right now? And there's, if you work on product specifically, like the biggest question you have is around prioritization. Like there's so many things you can do. Like it's not really about having good ideas. It's about, of all the good ideas that exist, like how do you prioritize and do the right thing first. So data and data science can play the role of understanding why things are happening in a product. So why are we growing in this country or on this platform, or why is this behavior growing right now? Growth team plays with that data team to actually actively try to grow things. So let's say on Airbnb we try and get more people to become hosts. There's some things that we can do actively to make that happen. It doesn't, in Airbnb's case or in Voxer's case, the growth team sits in product. The people that are involved in growth are product manager, engineers, and designers, and data people. They're basically all product, like part of the product organization. And I think that's where probably we should be sitting. Some companies have brand marketing or product marketing organization as well. I think when you have that, you probably get big. I think in general, the growth team should strive to educate the rest of the company that you can track most things. You can have an understanding why things are happening. And not to kind of prove a point, but to educate and help other teams, other parts of the company. So a great example of this was, I think, from Facebook, where the growth team started working on getting more advertisers to advertise on Facebook that actually kind of acted as a sales team for a while. It's a great example of a growth team working kind of vertically across the organization, helping out whatever is needed at the time. In Airbnb, I mean, growth team spends time on growing our core markets, or like where we're going next, maybe getting more of our hosts using the mobile app, just getting more of our users to invite new friends or tell their friends about Airbnb. Like we can work vertically across many different goals.